Have you ever noticed how your mind keeps talking even when your heart is tired? You think about what already happened, what might happen, and what could go wrong, often all at once. The moment passes, but your thoughts don't. They stay, repeat, and grow louder. This is overthinking, and it doesn't mean you're broken. Overthinking often begins with good intentions. You want to understand. You want to avoid mistakes. You want to protect yourself from pain, but instead of giving you clarity, overthinking slowly takes away your peace. It pulls you out of the present moment and traps you in your head. This book is not about stopping thoughts completely. Thinking is natural. The goal is to stop unnecessary thinking, the kind that drains your energy without helping you move forward. Step by step, you can learn how to do that. Chapter 1. What overthinking really is. Overthinking is when the mind keeps repeating the same thoughts without reaching a solution. You analyze, replay, imagine, and worry, but nothing actually changes. Instead of answers, you feel heavier, more confused, and more tired. Healthy thinking leads to action or understanding. Overthinking leads to doubt and fear. Most overthinking is driven by uncertainty. The mind believes that if it thinks long enough, it can control outcomes or avoid pain. But life does not work that way. The more you try to control everything with your thoughts, the more anxious you become. The first step to stopping overthinking is not fighting it. It is recognizing it. When you can say, "I am overthinking right now," you create distance between yourself and the thought. That distance is where calm begins. A real-life story. Consider this situation. A young man sent an email to his manager asking for feedback. Hours passed. No reply. His mind started filling the silence. Maybe I sounded unprofessional. What if I made a mistake? What if they're unhappy with my work? By evening, he felt anxious and restless. Nothing had actually happened, but in his mind, everything had. The next day, the manager replied, "Sorry for the late response. Everything looks good." All that stress came from thoughts, not reality. This is how overthinking works. It creates problems before they exist and makes small uncertainties feel like threats. The mind reacts as if the danger is real, even when it's only imagined. Once you understand this, something important shifts, even when they're not. Something small happens. A pause. A silence. A look. And your mind rushes in to explain it. Not with facts, but with guesses. Those guesses slowly turn into beliefs, and before you know it, your mood has changed, your confidence has dropped, and nothing outside of you has actually changed. This is where overthinking becomes heavy. The key shift is learning to pause and ask yourself, what is real right now, and what am I adding to it? Reality is usually neutral. The mind adds meaning. Imagine this. You send a message to someone you care about. You check your phone. No reply. 10 minutes pass. Then an hour. Your chest tightens a little. They saw it. Maybe I said too much. What if they're annoyed? You try to distract yourself, but your thoughts keep drifting back. You reread the message. It looks different now. Suddenly, it feels wrong even though it was fine when you sent it. Later that day, the reply comes, "Sorry, crazy day. Just saw this." And just like and just like that, the tension disappears. Nothing changed except the story in your head. This is how the mind works when it doesn't have information. It fills the space with fear, not because it wants to hurt you, but because it wants certainty. Unfortunately, fear is a poor substitute for truth. When you notice this happening, try something gentle. Name the fact. Then, name the story. Fact: I haven't received a reply yet. Story: they don't care. Once you see the difference, you don't have to fight the thought. You simply stop believing it so quickly. Over time, this practice softens overthinking. You learn to wait, to trust, and to let life explain itself, instead of forcing your mind to do all the explaining. And in that waiting, peace slowly returns. Chapter 3. Come back to the present moment. Overthinking pulls you away from where you are. Your body may be here, but your mind is somewhere else, replaying the past or worrying about the future. When this happens, no amount of thinking will bring peace, because peace only exists in the present moment. You cannot think your way out of overthinking. You have to return to now. The present moment is simple. It doesn't ask you to solve your entire life. It only asks you to be here with this breath, this step, this moment. When you come back to it, the mind begins to slow down naturally. One evening, someone was walking home after a difficult day. Their head was full of thoughts, things they should have said, things they feared might happen tomorrow. Their shoulders were tense, their jaw tight. But they didn't notice because they were too busy thinking. Halfway home, they stopped. Not on purpose, just tired. They took a deep breath. Then another. They noticed the cool air on their skin, the sound of traffic in the distance, the feeling of their feet on the ground. For a brief moment, the thoughts softened. Nothing in their life had changed. The problems were still there, but they felt different, lighter, calmer, more grounded. That's the power of the present moment. Overthinking survives in imagined places. The present moment brings you back to reality, where you are actually safe right now. Each time you gently bring your attention to your breath, your body, or your surroundings, you remind your nervous system that it can relax. You don't need to escape your thoughts. You just need to stop following them. With practice, returning to the present becomes a habit. And the more often you return, the quieter the mind becomes, not because you forced it, but because it no longer needs to shout to be heard. Chapter 4. Give your mind clear boundaries. An overthinking mind feels like it has no end. Thoughts begin in the morning, follow you through the day, and wait for you at night. When the mind has no boundaries, it believes it must solve everything right now. But the mind, like a child, needs limits. When you don't set boundaries, thoughts take over your time and energy. When you do, they begin to calm down because they finally know when and where they belong. A helpful shift is to stop letting your mind think all the time and start allowing it to think on purpose. There was a woman who felt most anxious at night. The moment she lay down, her thoughts rushed in. She worried about work, replayed conversations, and imagined problems for tomorrow. Sleep felt impossible. One day, she tried something different. She chose 20 minutes in the evening and wrote down everything that worried her, every thought, every fear, every unfinished task. When the time was up, she closed the notebook and said to herself, "I've already thought about this today." That night, when her mind tried to restart the worries, she gently reminded herself that thinking time was over, not perfectly, not forcefully, just consistently. Over time, something changed. Her thoughts didn't disappear, but they lost their urgency. The mind felt less desperate to interrupt her rest. Boundaries don't silence the mind. They teach it trust. When you decide when to think and when to rest, you stop living inside your thoughts and start leading them. And with that leadership, calm slowly takes root. Chapter 5. Take action instead of going in circles. Overthinking feels like you're doing something, but most of the time, you're not moving at all. Your thoughts keep spinning, yet your life stays the same. Action, small, simple action, is what interrupts this cycle. The mind wants certainty before it moves. Life doesn't work that way. Clarity usually comes after you act, not before. When you overthink, you're often afraid of choosing wrong. So you keep thinking, hoping the fear will disappear. But it rarely does. A student wanted to apply for a course but kept delaying it. Every day, they thought, what if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? What if I waste my time? Days turned into weeks. The thinking became heavier than the decision itself. One evening, the student finally filled out the form and submitted it. It took less than 30 minutes. Right after sending it, something changed. The fear didn't fully disappear, but the noise in their head did. There was nothing left to analyze. They had done what they could. That's the power of action. Even a small step tells your mind to relax. It ends the endless loop and replaces it with forward movement. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to begin. When you act, you stop overthinking, not by force, but by momentum. Chapter 6. Let thoughts pass without fighting them. One of the biggest mistakes people make with overthinking is trying to force thoughts to stop. The more you fight your thoughts, the louder they become. Overthinking doesn't need control, it needs space. Thoughts are not commands, they are experiences. You don't have to answer every thought, fix it, or push it away. You can let it come and let it go. A man noticed that every time he tried to relax, a negative thought would appear. What if something goes wrong tomorrow? He would argue with the thought, try to replace it, or distract himself. Nothing worked. One day, he tried something different. When the thought appeared, He said quietly, "Okay there," that thought. And he did nothing else. Surprisingly, the thought faded on its own. The next time it came, he did the same. No fighting, no judging, just noticing. Over time, the thoughts lost their power not because they disappeared, but because he stopped chasing them. When you allow thoughts to pass, they behave like waves. When you resist them, they feel like storms. You don't need to control your mind. You just need to stop holding on so tightly. Chapter 7. Stay with what you're doing. Overthinking often shows up when your attention is scattered. Your body is doing one thing, while your mind is somewhere else. When this happens, thoughts multiply. The opposite of overthinking is not thinking less. It is being more present. When you give your full attention to what you're doing right now, the mind has less space to wander into worry. Someone was washing dishes after dinner. Their hands were moving, but their mind was busy replaying a conversation from earlier in the day. The more they replayed it, the more tense they felt. At some point, they noticed the warm water on their hands, the sound of the plates, the simple movement of washing and rinsing. For a few minutes, the thoughts slowed down. Nothing special happened. The dishes were still dishes, but the mind felt quieter because it was finally in the same place as the body. When you focus on one small action, walking, eating, listening, breathing, you gently anchor yourself to the present moment. Overthinking fades not because you pushed it away, but because your attention found somewhere else to rest. Presence is a practice. The more you return to it, the less control overthinking has over you. Chapter 8. Be kind to yourself as you learn. Overthinking often comes with a harsh inner voice. You criticize yourself for thinking too much, for not being calm enough, for not getting over it. But that voice only adds another layer of noise. Change doesn't happen through self-pressure. It happens through self-kindness. You are unlearning a habit that took years to form. That takes time. When you judge yourself for overthinking, the mind becomes tense and defensive. When you respond with patience, it softens. A person noticed that every time they caught themselves overthinking, they would say, "Why am I like this?" The frustration only made the thoughts stronger. One day they tried something gentler. When overthinking appeared, they said, "I'm feeling overwhelmed right now," and that's okay. Nothing magical happened, but something shifted. The tightness eased. The thoughts didn't need to fight anymore. Being kind to yourself doesn't mean giving up. It means creating a safe space for change. Each time you notice overthinking and choose patience instead of blame, you take a step forward. Progress isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet, steady, and built on compassion. And, little by little, your mind learns that it doesn't have to work so hard to protect you. Conclusion: a quieter mind is built, not forced. Overthinking doesn't disappear all at once. It fades slowly, through small moments of awareness and gentle choices. Each time you notice the spiral and pause, each time you choose presence over panic, you are retraining your mind. You may still overthink sometimes, and that's okay. The goal was never to become someone who never worries. The goal is to stop letting your thoughts control your peace. Remember this: you are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. With practice, your mind will learn to rest. You'll trust yourself more. You'll spend less time inside your head and more time living your life as it happens. Be patient with the process. Keep moving forward, even slowly. A calmer, clearer mind isn't far away. It's built one gentle moment at a time.